What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for another review of 90 Day Fiance Before the 90 Days, Season 5, Episode 12, Head Games. So we start off with Gino and Jasmine. They're on their way to meet Jasmine's mom and her sister, and Gino is extremely worried about the possibility of having to take his hat off. This is like really stressing him out. He needs to go to counseling for this. He does. He needs to figure out, why does he have such a huge insecurity about his bald head. Half the men walking around are bald. A lot of people think bald is beautiful. What is the deal with this? What is the deal with this insecurity and the need to always wear a hat in public? So when they arrive at the house, they meet the mom, they meet the sister, and the first thing that the mother notices is the huge age difference between Jasmine and Gino, and they make a big deal about that, and they keep talking about how Gino was already the age of Jasmine's sister, which was 18 when Jasmine was born. He was already 18 years old, a full-grown adult, when Jasmine came into the world. So the mom questions, why doesn't Gino have any children? And Gino says, well, it really just didn't work out for me. And I wonder if the mother was asking that because maybe Gino and Jasmine might decide to have children, and maybe there's some fertility issues on Gino's part. I don't know. It just never really happened for him. So then Gino and Jasmine's mom are actually the same, around the same age, give or take a year. I had no idea that I was never really like conscious of this age gap between them, because Gino acts so immature and so childlike, whereas Jasmine is so much in control and she acts so she's is his mother or something like that. She's the one that's always telling him what to do. So I never really even like noticed this huge age difference between them. So they all sit down for dinner, and then Jasmine tells her mother that Gino is not comfortable taking off his hat. And the mom looks at Jasmine and she's like, Jasmine, I don't know. And she just shakes her head. And I don't know if the mother was thinking, this man can't even take off his hat for a couple of seconds to give thanks to the Lord for this meal that's about to nourish him. He can't even do that. That's how much he's like attached to this damn hat. So Gino says in his confessional that he's not sure if Jasmine's mom likes him or not. Okay, are you not reading the room? Can you not pick up on her nonverbal cues that this woman is like examining you from head to toe, and she's really trying to figure out what the hell her daughter sees in you? I mean, the mother was making it so obvious that she really wasn't understanding this relationship at all, and she really wasn't that enthusiastic about her daughter being with this, weird guy. So Gino wanted to know if Jasmine had a lot of boyfriends as a teenager. And I thought that was a really peculiar question to ask her mother, because the only thing that I could think of why he would want to know that is he probably wanted to know if she was a fast little girl. And the mom was like, no, she did not. That was not the kind of girl she was, because I was, strict and I had a lot of control over her. And that was not going to be happening in my house. Or so you think, mom, because Jasmine seems like someone who did a lot of stuff behind her mother's back. So the mom says, no, I didn't allow it. Then they look at old pictures of Jasmine. And this is like the only time that the mother cracked a smile, is when she was looking at those old photos, because the whole entire time the mom looked really worried. She looked really tense. She looked really confused. She looked really stressed out. So that's the only time that I saw the mother smile, is when she was looking at those old photos of Jasmine. So Gino asks for the mom's blessing for them to get married. And the mom looks at Jasmine and she says, do you really want to go to another country? And Jasmine says that she does. The mom looks really unhappy. So the mom says that Jasmine is her treasure, and he needs to treat her as such. And I'm thinking to myself, Gino has done everything but to treat Jasmine like a treasure. He disrespects her by talking to his ex-wife behind her back while she's right there taking a nap. He's texting his ex-wife. He's sending intimate pictures of Jasmine to his ex-wife. That to me is like the biggest, most disgusting violation that a man could do. Is this woman is entrusting you with her body, with She's showing you how vulnerable she is, because it takes a lot for a woman to send pictures like that to her partner. And she's, trusting you. She has a lot of trust in you for her to even do something like this. And you completely violated that trust and you took advantage of it. And you give these pictures to your ex wife for what? Because who knows what that woman would have done, because who knows how that woman feels about Jasmine. And she could do something that could actually ruin this woman's life. And you did this so cavalierly, like just so nonchalant, like it's no big deal. It's like, oh, I'm gonna send nude pics of my current girlfriend to my ex-wife so I can make her mad. And then that's another thing. It shows a lot of insecurity in you, Gino, and it shows that you can't let go of the past, and it shows that you hold some type of, this ex-wife of yours holds some type of like mental or emotional control over you, because you're so obsessed with making her jealous and seeking some kind of vengeance on her, to show her, oh, look what I got now. It's better than you. I mean, are you jealous of who your ex-wife is currently with, and you want to make her feel bad by showing off your current girlfriend? I mean, it was a complete violation of Gino to send those pictures of Jasmine to his ex without her. Just a complete violation. Now, Jasmine might get over it, and she might be, trying to put it past her and move on with her life with Gino. But that is something, to me, that is a complete 1000% deal breaker, because stuff like that can ruin people's lives. Okay, absolutely ruin their lives. And here you are, just so casually, oh yeah, I'm gonna send this picture to my ex-wife of my topless current girlfriend. That is disgusting, disgusting, disgusting. I can't say enough about how grossed out and just, ugh. I don't understand how Jasmine could have spent another second in this man's presence after finding that out, because I think people can even like file charges against you if you do that to someone without their permission. But anyways, I digress. So the mother gives her, so yeah, I'm not done, I'm sorry, I gotta go back on that treasure thing. So the mom was like, yeah, she's my treasure and I want you to treat her as such. And I'm like, okay, how can he treat her like that's his treasure when he violated her privacy by sending, nude photos or intimate photos of her? He buys her cheap gifts like toothbrushes and pregnancy tests. He bought her a cheap ring, and he wanted to keep this, the memento that he wanted to keep from her was a broken fingernail, if it was even her fingernail. Who knows what broken fingernail he found on the floor, whose broken fingernail it was that he found on the floor, that he wanted to keep as a memento of her. So I have yet to see Gino treating this woman like any kind of treasure. So the mom gives her blessings, and then Jasmine, she herself says that she's not even sure if she's actually ready to marry Gino, because she's still upset about him texting his ex. Now, I don't know if she meant like texting his ex, just like texting, or texting his ex the intimate photos of her. I don't know which one she meant. But if she was more concerned about just the communication and not the pictures, then Jasmine, there's something wrong with you. So the next scene that we have is that they're celebrating and they're dancing. She's trying to teach him how to do the merengue. He looks like some kind of, floppy puppet, just really uncoordinated. And she's really, they're really excited that the mother gave the blessings. And then Gino takes off to FaceTime his brother. And so he's telling his brother, who's also wearing a hat indoors, he's telling his brother about all the stuff that's been going down in Panama, and that he's going to propose to Jasmine, and he's very excited about it. He's very happy about it. And his brother was like, I don't think so. I don't think that's a good idea. And he tells Gino, y'all are in paradise and y'all still find a way to get at each other's throats. Y'all are still having a lot of issues, a lot of problems. Y'all are arguing. You have this huge blowout fight in paradise. And that's supposed to be the one place where a couple can find some type of peace and tranquility, a way to strengthen their bond together, was when they're in this, beautiful environment. But y'all have managed to mess that up, but you want to propose to this woman. And Gino was like, well, every couple has issues. Okay, but nobody has these kind of issues, Gino. These issues for a couple that's, starting off the relationship, these are some extreme issues. So the brother is like, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think y'all are ready. I think y'all need to get to know each other better and spend more time with each other. But of course, Gino being Gino and Jasmine being Jasmine, they're not going to do that. Moving on to Usman and Kimberly. So Usman tells Kim finally about his relationship with Zara. Kim is really upset that he was keeping this information from her and that he also lied about who the song was actually about. In her confessional, she says that Usman says he truly loved, no, I'm sorry. In the confessional, it was a confessional of both of them together. Usman says that he really loved Zara, but she broke up with him, and he really loved that girl. And he says that as he's sitting like right next to Kimberly. I'm like, oh my God, couldn't you have kind of like edited that just a little bit and maybe have said, I had a lot of feelings for her or she meant a lot to me. But he was like, no, I really loved her. I was really in love with her, because this is making her feel some kind of way, because she had to fight and struggle and claw her way to the point where he considered her his potential. And he's just, carefree, talking about, oh yeah, I really love this girl. I was really in love with this girl. And when she broke up with me, it really broke my heart. So Kim asked, when did y'all break up? And he said it was about 4 months ago. And then Kim is shocked because she was like, she thought she was the one. She thought that she was the main woman in his life. So Kim says that during this time, I was putting in the work. I was, trying to make him feel better. I was helping him get over his ex, which I'm thinking she's referring to Lisa, trying to help him, get over all of that, the pain from that or whatever he was struggling with that. And she thought that she was like really doing it for him, like really being there for him. And the whole time he is in a full blown relationship with this Zara chick. So I was kind of like, now, what is she talking about? Was she really thinking, like, what would make her think that she was the only one in his life? Because at this time they're still probably just talking on some like WhatsApp or talking in the DMs. Like, what would make her think that he was like treating her any different than any other fan at that time? I was confused about that, because I'm thinking that maybe she was just acting like a fan, like a real fanatic, being all up in his business and maybe sending him money and maybe doing whatever she could to make him feel better from afar. But it really wasn't like a boyfriend girlfriend relationship or even anything that had any kind of potential to be like that. So I don't know why she was like thinking to herself, okay, I was the one that was there for you, but you're having a relationship with someone else. So that kind of confused me. So she says that she felt really stupid. So they were at, that spice tour that they were doing. And so after he told her about Zara, she was like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to go. In her confessional again, she says that they spent a lot of time they spent a lot of time FaceTiming and texting and talking on the phone. And the whole time he's with a whole nother woman. And she says that if she would have known that he was with Zara, she would not have done half the things that she did for him. So she says she feels stupid for helping him out with the video for another girl. And she suggests to him that they break up. Well, she should feel stupid, because we all knew that Zara was a real person, that this song was about a real woman in his life. And there she was, helping him out with the video, supporting him throughout the video, doing all that she could to make the video better, to help him out. Just being a really good girlfriend slash potential slash friend slash fan, doing all this stuff for him for the video. And the whole entire time, this song is about a whole nother woman, who's sitting back watching this like, yeah, she's making this video about me come out really good. So later on that night, she texted him to say that she was done with him. And so he comes over because he's upset about that. So he comes over to her room and he comes back with the PS5 and the MacBook Pro. And he comes in and he gives her back her stuff, which I was surprised that he did that, because I never thought he would have done that. I thought he was like hanging on to those gifts for dear life, just waiting for the moment he can get on a plane and go safely to Nigeria, where, he wouldn't have to give the gifts back. But yeah, he brought them back. He says, here's your gifts. You can take them back. And she didn't want them. I think she took the laptop. And He says that he really didn't agree with her behavior. Kim said that she was upset that he didn't tell her, not that he was dating Zara. So she was upset about the secret that he kept. And I think there were a couple of times when she even asked him straight up, is Zara a real person, or who is this song about? And he lied to her. He says Zara was a representation of all the women in the world. And so she's like, everything about him was a lie. So she acts like she's done with him. He acts like he's done with her. She's not done with him because, she's so called in love and maybe she's lonely. And he's not done with her because he needs the financial support. Sometimes you just gotta call a thing a thing. I might be wrong, and the next episode I might be proven wrong, but I feel like they're not gonna let each other go. They have a lot to gain and too much to lose to let each other go. So Mahogany and Ben. So Ben FaceTimes his friend to give him an update. He tells his friend that Mahogany is real, and his friend is like, "What?" So they discuss the concerns that he had. He told his friend that she took me to her apartment, which I was shocked because this whole time she led me to believe that she was living with her parents. And he tells his friend the condo itself looked like it was not lived in. He says there were travel brochures on the coffee table, so it looked like some type of a staged setup for something. And he also tells his friend that he found out that she was actually 2 years younger than what he thought. So the friend tells him to look for a pattern of deceit. Like, is this from the Bible? It sounds really biblical. So the friend tells him you need to look for a pattern of deceit. And I'm like, okay, I think you already found it. He found that pattern of deceit. There's nothing more to look for. If he finds anything else, he needs to get on the first plane back to the United States. So then Ben meets with Mahogany and her friends. Mahogany says in her confessional that, my parents, they still have doubts about Ben, but I want to introduce them to also, my girls. So the friends arrive, they get ice cream, and the friend says that the friend says that he's as old as her parents. Ben. But Ben, I'm pretty sure Ben is used to these kind of comments because he's dated somebody younger before, and maybe, they just roll off his back. So the friends had glowing things to say about their girl Ben. I wonder if they're in the same scam circle of scamming men on the internet. But the friends were like, Mahogany, she's a really good friend. She'll always be there for you. She's very reliable and trustworthy, etc., etc. So Ben asked if there's anything he should know about Mahogany as her new friend. And the friend says, well, she said that you were just... Oh, I'm sorry. Ben asked if there's anything he should know about Mahogany as her new boyfriend. And the friend says, well, she told us that you were just her friend. And Ben was like, he turns to Mahogany. He's like, so Mahogany, I'm just your boyfriend or your friend? And Mahogany says in her confessional that he brought up marriage in our chats, but how was I supposed to know he would be as serious in person? Oh, so you thought he was just as fake as you were when y'all were texting each other. Okay. So Ben says in his confessional that we talked about marriage, we talked about kids, we had intimate conversations. He says I traveled 4,000 miles to be with her, but now she's gonna dismiss me as just her friend. No. So the next day, I guess it was the next day, I don't know when it was, but the next time that we see Ben, he's reading over all these old text messages between him and Mahogany because he wants to see that that this relationship was real. And I'm like, oh my god, this woman Mahogany has turned him so upside down, inside out, that he has to go back and read old texts to make sure that this wasn't a dream, that he didn't imagine this relationship, that it wasn't some figment of his imagination, because what he's seeing in real life is not adding up at all to what he thought was going on online. I mean, starting from her pictures, which was like, I mean, to say photoshopped, I think is a huge understatement. Photoshop is like when you're trying to kind of clear up your skin a little bit, or, kind of lighten things up a little bit, or darken things up a little bit. This woman created a whole different character, and posed and said that was her. The photoshopped and the real thing, I would have been pissed if I was Ben. I mean, you're expecting this, and the thing is, Mahogany herself is a really pretty girl. She didn't have to do that. Like, why would you even do that? You look fine just as you are. You didn't have to completely create a completely different cartoon character to lure men in. You look absolutely fine the way you are. But anyways, I digress. So Ben wants to give her the benefit of the doubt because she's young and this is also new to her. Excuse me? She's conning you, Ben. You're the one that needs to be given the benefit of the doubt, not her. She's conning you. You're the victim in this whole scam, not her. She's about 55 steps ahead of you. Okay, you're the one giving her money. She is the one that is lying to you, scamming you, conning you. But she's so young and we need to give her the benefit of the doubt. Ben, if you don't stop. And so they want to go on a couple's trip. And Mahogany says in her confessional that it's surprising to hear Ben assume that he was my boyfriend. She goes, it's so surprising to hear him assume that he was my boyfriend when we hadn't even defined what we were yet. So I'm like, okay, if y'all are talking about marriage and babies and futures together, like, what is it then? I mean, this is what you talk about with all your friends. You know, you hang out with your friends. You're like, hey, let's talk about having babies together and getting married, but we're just friends. So, Mahogany says in her confessional that saying I love you doesn't mean we're together. She's like, yeah, just because we said I love you to each other doesn't mean that we were actually in a relationship or that we were a couple. You know what? It would have made more sense if Mahogany had said, hey, it wasn't a real relationship because everything was happening online. We hadn't even met. We hadn't even talked on the phone. Okay, I never heard his voice. So it wasn't on a real, at least say that, but don't say, oh, talking about babies and marriage, that doesn't mean we're in a relationship. Or saying things like, oh yeah, we said we were in love with each other, but that doesn't mean we're in a relationship. Just say, look, everything was happening online. So to me, it really wasn't real yet. So as they're driving to their destination, they have like a really riveting, juicy conversation about traffic lights and intersections. And Mahogany says in her confessional that Ben was more interesting. He was more interesting in text than he is in real life. Because all they talked about was like stop signs and stop lights and how this particular city had none of that and how intersections were dangerous. So then they talk about Jesus and she asked him, I guess she was trying to stir up a conversation. I guess, talking about traffic lights was a little bit too much for them. So then she stirs a conversation to religion and she asked him, why do you think Jesus was such a strong man or something like that? How could he have it? No, she asked him, how did Jesus endure all of the problems, all the troubles that he was able to endure? What gave him that strength to take on all of these, the persecution and all of that? What gave him the strength to handle all of that? I don't know what the hell he said, but what she said made a lot more sense. He was a strong man. So they arrive at the hotel, and y'all, they have separate rooms. And I was looking for that. I was about to clown him if they were going to be sharing a room, because he was the one that was all about, hey, we're not going to touch, we're not going to kiss, we're not going to do anything until we're married. So the next day they go on their dune buggy ride. It looked like a whole lot of fun. Then they have this really romantic dinner that's laid out in the actual sand dunes, and the dinner looked really, really nice. And so they're sitting there eating and talking, and Mahogany says, so what were you like at my age? And that question kind of reminded me, like when kids ask their grandparents, like, grandpa, what was it like when you were my age? And then Mahogany asks him about relationships, his relationship with his ex, and, like what happened with his ex-wife. And he said that his ex-wife, they had a lot of problems. He said that she's a bitter ex, she's still not over the divorce. Like, she really didn't want to get the divorce. Like, she was the one that was trying to hang on to the relationship when he wanted to let go. He had to go through a lot of counseling. And then he brings up about how hurt he was, because he says, let's not talk about the past. Let's talk about me and you. He says, he brings up how hurt he was when she had referred to him as just her friend, Biz Marquis. And so Mahogany says, well, you never asked me to be official. How did you skip that part? And the way she was like, kind of like, so, like blaming him. She was like blaming him. Like, you never asked me to be your girlfriend. How could you not ask me? How did you skip that? Why did you skip that part? Like, she was so accusatory of him never making it official. She's so Ben was like, well, I assumed that it was sort of obvious when we're talking about having a family and becoming engaged. Like, I kind of thought that you got the hint that we were together and that I was really into you and I wanted a future with you. And then in her confessional, Mahogany says that talking about these things is like what you talk about before you enter a relationship, not when you're deep in it. Before you even get into a relationship, according to Mahogany's rules of dating and relationships, it's okay to talk about babies and marriage. Like, we're gonna do not even like what are your thoughts on. It's like, no, we are going to get married and we're going to have babies together and we're going to have a future. That's what you talk about before you even get into any kind of official relationship. So then she asked about his 27-year-old girlfriend. I think she asked him, have you ever dated a woman as young as me? And he said that he dated someone who was 27 years old. And how that didn't work out because she wasn't willing to accept his children. So then Mahogany questions, what part did Ben play in the failure of his relationships? And in her confessional, she says, I kind of question a pastor who cannot take the responsibility of what he did in the past. And so Ben, in his confessional, he's like, I know this heifer did not ask me about what part I played, and because she made it seem like, oh, so this is actually what she said to him. She was like, well, it seems like you're putting all the blame on your exes, and like you did nothing wrong. Like you were perfect. You were the perfect Ben Hameen. You did nothing wrong to contribute to the failure of your relationships. And she's asking him kind of like, like real like, I don't know, like real snotty, like, oh, so you're perfect and you don't do anything wrong. It's always somebody else's fault. And so in his confessional, Ben was like, she had some nerve questioning me on what role I played in the breakdown of my relationships when she is a whole entire lie. Her whole existence is a lie. He's like, I haven't even gotten into her about, her Photoshop pictures, her fake apartment, her lying to me about her age. I mean, she's like pointing this finger at her and like sees like she herself has done absolutely nothing wrong. And so I'm like, yes, Ben, you need to get into that. You need to get deep, deep, deep into that, with all the lies that she told you. And yeah, you need to get into that quickly. Ask those questions real quickly because I want to see how she squirms. Moving on to Mike and Ximena. So Ximena just told Mike that she wasn't in love with him. Ximena is now backtracking and two-stepping because she's like, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. I have love for you, but I'm not deeply in love with you. The whole routine. So she says to be in love, we have to live together for a long time. And love is such a serious, big word and you just can't use it so casually. So Mike looks completely devastated and confused. And Ximena says that she has doubts. And Mike is like, okay, let's talk about it. What are your doubts? And Jimena's like, I'm too tired to talk. So she kicks him out of the room and he, he slumps off into the little boy's room and he has to sleep on this little boy bed with like Thomas and Friends bed sheets and like a Mickey Mouse stuffed animal right next to him. And that was just like so hilarious to me. And I'm like, Mike, you are doing a lot. You are doing a lot. You did not have to put yourself through this kind of embarrassment. I mean, I will always remember Mike going into that little boy's room and sitting down in that little boy's bed with Thomas the Train or Thomas and Friends bed sheets. That memory is like seared in my head. So he just really wants to get to the bottom of it and trying to figure out like what the hell has changed. Well, you didn't give her the money that she wanted for her damn surgery or to pay off her loan sharks, whatever the situation was. That's what's changed, Mike. So the next morning he calls his friend John and he's telling John all the stuff that's gone down with Ximena. She's different. She's changed. She's just not that into me. I had to go sleep in the little boy's room. And his friend was like, what? You traveled all the way over there and she made you sleep in another room? And his friend was like, Mike, come on home. You're wasting your time. This is not what you need right now. And he says, Mike tells his friend, well, maybe there was something lost in translation. Maybe, there was something that I've missed in the translation. And I'm like, Mike, you're a glutton for punishment. You are a glutton. There was nothing. I don't see how anything was like that translator app that you have on your phone. It translated everything perfectly to a T. She's disgusted. She's not in love. She's grossed out by you. You have way too many issues for her to deal. That translator app translated everything beautifully. Okay, Mike, stop it. So he tells John, well, can you ask your wife if she can translate for me and Ximena so I can really understand what's going on? So you can really be embarrassed, Mike. So you can really, really have her kick you when you're down. That's what you really, really want. Okay, we'll take care of that. So they go to the cafe. Jimena's in a bad mood, like she always is, since the second trip. She's in a bad mood, and she doesn't want to do this. She's like, I don't understand why we're doing this. He knows how I feel. I made it very clear to him. This is like a waste of my damn time to even be here and to do this. So when the meeting starts, he's on his laptop and she's sitting across the table from him, and the laptop obviously is facing him. And so he tells the friend, yeah, Jimena's here, but she's sitting across the table from me. She doesn't want to be on camera, So the friend is like, okay, this is weird. So Mike starts with, what he wants to know. Like he tries to explain to the friend for the friend to explain to Ximena. Now, what I didn't like was the fact that he would use the friend to translate. I thought that that was very unfair to Ximena because Mike and the translator are friends. And so there's like a bias there, obviously. So I just didn't think it was fair for Ximena. I think he should have hired or used someone who was completely neutral, who could actually translate and not use this opportunity to grill Ximena. So I kind of felt sorry for her. She feels how she feels, and she told Mike how she felt because she could have just strung him along. She could have slept with him a whole bunch of times again. She could have done all kinds of stuff to get that money out of him, but she didn't. She told him, this is how I feel. I don't have those same feelings for you anymore. He's not willing to accept it. And now you're going to bring in your friend to practically harass her, to make her say what you want her to say or whatever the hell you're trying to do here. So I really felt bad for Ximena in this particular scene because like, what more can she say? She said all that she could. I don't love you. I'm not in love with you. I don't want to marry you. You disgust me. I think you're weird. Like, what does she need to do? Draw you a picture? Like, what else does she need to do, Mike? So the friend, Ximena says that she's not comfortable talking about her problems with one of his friends. Understandably. Exactly. Yes. And so then he's staring at her. Oh, so the friend asks, I don't know what the friend asked. And then, oh, yeah, yeah. So the friend asked, okay, so what bothers you about him? And Ximena said, okay, what bothers me about Mike is that, she lists a whole bunch of stuff. And then she talks about how, like, when I'm sleeping in the middle of the night, I can feel somebody watching me. So I wake up and he's just there staring at me like a weird bug. And the friend asked him, well, what do you like about him? Let's start there because that's going to take up less time. The friend is like, well, what do you like about him? And instead of naming the things that she likes about him, she went back into all the things that she doesn't like about him. So the friend was like, Ximena, if you don't love him now, why did you take that money from him? How could you take money from him? And Ximena was like, well, when I met him, I had stopped working and he was supporting me. And then the friend was like, Mike, you never told us that she had quit her job and you were supporting her. And Mike was like, yeah, that's what I did. That's what happened. And so the friend was like, stop doing that. She's totally disgusted by you and she's not happy with you, which is exactly what Ximena herself had said. Why do you need another person to reiterate this to you? And so the friend says, Mike, she doesn't love you. And Mike was like, okay, well, I'll see when the next flight is. I'll see when the next flight is. And then Ximena looks at him like, are you breaking up with me? And then I'm like, no, Ximena, baby. I know you kind of feel kind of like, like offended by that. Sweetheart, he's not breaking up with you, girl, because you had already broken up with him. He's just trying to tie up some loose ends. He's just trying to get some kind of closure. You broke up with him as soon as he set his poop filled foot into your apartment. on his second trip to Colombia. That's when you really have broken up with him, because you created all this distance between the two of you. You gave him the cold shoulder. You looked at him with absolute disdain. You didn't even want this man to touch you. You couldn't even sleep in the same bed with him. You relegated him to your kid's room with the Thomas the Train bed sheets and the Mickey Mouse stuffed animal. You actually broke up with him in a roundabout way. It was like a constructive breakup, okay? So don't worry about that. Just don't be offended by that. You know, don't feel like your ego was bruised, like this man broke up with me. No, sweetheart, you had already broken up with him. He's just trying to get closure. Memphis and Hamza. So they're talking on the balcony, and Hamza feels bad about, he feels bad this morning. You know, the night before, the day before, when Memphis was when she was telling him about why she had spent the night with her ex, and you know what she was going through, and it was like a really dark moment in her life, and she really was struggling psychologically, mentally. She was in crisis. Memphis was in deep crisis when she went to her ex for the support that she needed to get through it, to take care, to help to take care of her kids, because she had failed her board exams, and it was a tough time for her, and she was reaching out for help, and luckily, thank God, the ex was there to help her. And at first Hamza understood, but like the next day he was not understanding anymore, and I'm thinking he probably was talking to his mother. And so Hamza says, oh, you like problems? And Memphis was like, I don't like problems. What are you talking about? So Memphis thinks that there's a huge language barrier between them, and so she wants to and she thinks that the language barrier is contributing to their problems, and so she wants to get a neutral translator to help them communicate with each other. So Hamza's worried that Memphis might still have feelings for her ex, and that she may still be in a relationship with her ex. So they meet with a translator. Hamza is not comfortable about Memphis staying with her ex for those 4 nights, even though she was in deep crisis. So Hamza says this is not normal in his culture. And he was like, in America, you know, they do that kind of stuff all the time. And he's really worried that she might do this again because it's accepted in her culture. So he's like, you know, what if me and her are having a problem and she goes back to her ex to seek comfort? And, Hamza says that he questions, like, why also is she still communicating with her ex? So Memphis is like, she's not going to go, she would never go back to her ex again if she was with him. And that, like, go back to him for help or anything like that. And she says that they still have to communicate together because they have a child together. So she starts talking loud, and Hamza is not used to that. He doesn't like that. And so he tells the translator, you see how she's talking really loud to me? I don't like that. And Hamza says that she yells a lot and she gets angry with me. So Memphis realizes this in herself, and so she checks herself and she tries to calm down a little bit. So so she says that she's doing so much for their relationship, you know, all the traveling that she's done, the money that she spent. She says that she has friends and family who are against her relationship with Hamza, but she's still gonna push forward and still be with him because, you know, she loves him and she wants to be with him. I kind of feel like Memphis should not have mentioned the fact that she has people that don't like him or don't really care for their relationship, because if he is gonna come to America, you know, it wouldn't be nice for him to enter an environment where he thinks already the people here don't even like me. But that's what she told him. And so, you know, she starts crying because she's like, I'm doing so much for you. You know, I'm sacrificing so much for you. And even the translator was like, come on, Hamza. Come on, Hamza. She loves you. And so, you know, Hamza felt bad. And so he got up and he kissed her. And it seems like, you know, things were looking better for them. So then he takes her on a romantic trip. So he takes her to like the ruins of this ancient society or this ancient civilization. And it's like a lot of these stone houses, you know, like this area looks like it's been around for thousands and thousands of years. And so he takes her there, and then he tells her to wait for him. He disappears for a while, then he comes back and he's dressed all in white, and he basically proposes to her. He gets down on one knee and he asks her to marry him, and he gives her a ring and it fit perfectly. And of course she said yes. And so now Hamza and Memphis are engaged, and hopefully we'll be seeing a wedding soon. So that ended on a really good positive note, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for Memphis and Hamza. And that's where I'm going to end it. Thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far, I appreciate you more than you'll ever know, because you decided to spend your time with me, and I appreciate that. So go ahead and rate this video, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever makes you happy, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.